All right. Happy night before Thanksgiving. Hopefully, everyone is settling in, getting their big meals ready for their socially distanced Thanksgiving. I am Chad Millman. This is Convince Me. We've got a much bigger window than we normally have because we are giving you plenty of time to get down your bets for all the Thanksgiving Day action. We're sad about the Ravens and the Steelers, but there is still plenty to talk about. Later on in the show, we are going to have Darren Ravel, Katie Rich Creek giving us all the news and information, what the big bets are, what the markets are saying about the games tomorrow, the two games tomorrow, everything we are talking about, every pick we are making, every stat we are referring to is available in the Action Network app. It is free. And by the way, it's not even in my script. By the way, Black Friday sale going on right now. $49.99 for a subscription to our pro product. Get it now while it's hot. It's on the shelves. Unlimited inventory, people. All right, here's what's going to happen. Over the next few minutes, Sean Corner, Stuckey, Chris Raybon, they're going to try to convince me of the best bets I should be making in the Texans-Lions game and in the Washington Cowboys game. Don't forget the contest. There is a contest. You're going to be able to reply to @Action Network HQ. I will tell you what we're going to be talking about when it's time to do that. First up, let's get to our best bet for the Texans and the Lions. Sean Corner, you are up first.
I am going with Jordan Akins over 30.5 receiving yards. Now, he started the season as the Texans' unquestioned number one pass catching tight end. He averaged 81% routes run through the first three games, and then he suffered both a concussion and an ankle injury. So he was out for 3 games. They've been easing him back in, but last week he saw his routes run per dropback jump up to 56%. And then, Randall Cobb and Kenny Stills both went down. So he was asked to line up in the slot a lot more. So he's basically a wide receiver at this point. So I'm expecting more of that this week. And, he caught 5 balls for 83 yards in this role last week. So, only having to clear 30.5 yards against this Lions defense seems like an easy task to me. So I'm smashing this prop. And I would actually bet it up to, 37.5, 38. I think there's a ton of upside here.
All right, 37.5, 38. By the way, here's what's interesting to me. And for everyone who's watching, reply to @Action Network HQ with what you think Jordan Akins' total receiving yards are going to be. You will be eligible to win our cash prize if you get it right, because that's what we do. Sean Corner gives a prop. You reply to @Action Network HQ with that player's total yards. You're eligible to win. Sean, you make all the projections for our Fantasylabs for our DFS focused company, Fantasylabs. In the Fantasylabs projections, Jordan Akins is a 10 out of 10 to go over total receptions, only a 9 out of 10 to go over total receiving yards. Why did you go with the 9 out of 10 prop instead of the 10 out of 10 prop?
I think you're splitting hairs there. I think I mentioned there's some upside here with Kenny Stills and Randall Cobb out. I'm being fairly conservative with my projection to begin with. My projection for Deshaun Watson is 285 yards, but the market's actually over 300. So I factor in a bunch of different things when I come to these kind of decisions. So I think, like I said, there's a ton of upside on the over here. So that's where I'm I mentioned this when I said the Philip Lindsay over in the snow. It's similar to that, where there's other variables outside of just my numbers that I'm taking into play here.
All right, well, I like it. And by the way, like the crew on this show on Sunday mornings that we do, Sundays at 11 a.m., has been crushing player props. So this is always a good one to think about. Jordan Akins over 30.5 yards, up to 37.5. That's what Sean Corner is saying. I'm taking it into consideration. Let me see what Stuckey has to say.
For my best bet in this game, I'm going Jordan Akins under 30.5 yards because Sean Corner is due to get one wrong. Kidding. I'm going with the Texans here. And once Galladay was ruled out, this Lions offense is just not the same without him. And on top of that, I don't think Stafford is healthy. He got shut out by the awful Panthers defense last week. Shut out for the first time in his career. If you go back to 2011, had a hurt throwing hand, was wearing a glove, a fingerless glove. 2015, had about 3 or 4 games in each year we had a hurt throwing hand. he was horrendous, absolutely horrendous. And he doesn't look the same now. And then just in general, when he doesn't have Galladay, the offense just doesn't have as much pop. And if they don't have Swift as well, who's questionable, they can't really take advantage of the Texans' bad run defense. They're just handing it to Adrian Peterson. So Deshaun Watson's playing at a really high level. The Lions defense is not. And I think this Lions offense right now, with a potentially banged up Stafford and no Galladay, it's in rough shape. Favorites have crushed on Thanksgiving. It's technically a buy low spot on the Lions. I know teams after getting shut out in the NFL have been historically great against the spread, but I don't see this Lions offense doing much with the state of affairs right now. So I'm going Houston.
All right. You like the Texans tomorrow. Chris Raybon, give me your play.
Well, mine kind of correlates with both Sean's and Stuckey's play because I'm going with Darren Fells under 19 and a half receiving yards. And the reason is, number one, as Sean mentioned, Jordan Akins has been playing a lot more. The first 3 games of the season, he was playing about an 80-20 split with Fells, and he got hurt. Well, last week, Fells played behind Pharaoh Brown. I bet 90% of the people watching the show don't even know who Pharaoh Brown is, but he was the 3rd tight end until last week. So a season low in snaps for Fells. And, as Stuckey mentioned, the Texans have an advantage in this game. And, people think of that as, okay, they're going to put up big numbers, but that actually tends to mean that the passing game is not going to be needed quite as much. So the 2nd to 3rd string tight end in a matchup where the team has the edge, it's just not a good look. And on top of that, the Lions, 34.4 yards allowed to tight ends, 2nd fewest in the league this season. So that's the one position they guard well. So I know you don't like taking unders, Chad, but Darren Fells is, he might be buried on the depth chart. So they're really not going to need him in this spot.
Honestly, Raybon, Darren Fells is getting more playing time right now in the Deshaun Watson IBM commercial than he is in the actual game. That's where we will see how well Darren Fells can play. I've got a very clear opinion on this, but I'm going to give you all a last chance to convince me one more time. Who can convince me with the most might right now?
Not Matt Patricia.
Corners due for a loss.
I like all bets.
Oh my God.
You didn't listen to me last time. I said parlay them all and they went 3-0. So I'm saying these all correlate to a certain extent. Parlay them all. Go 3-0.
It is true. And by the way, as you guys were all talking, I was thinking to myself, I kind of like all 3 of these and they all make sense, right? Like the Texans right now, they're 3-point favorites. I like the Jordan Akins number. I like the Darren Fells play. I'm doing it. You know what? This is the spirit of Thanksgiving is you feast, you eat as much as you possibly can. I am going to overindulge. I'm going with Jordan Akins over 30.5. I'm going with the Texans on the road. I'm going with Darren Fells under 19.5 receiving yards. Gimme.
Make it a turkey.
Darren Ravel, what do you got for me?
Okay, Chad, let's give you this note. This is the first time since November 26th, 1959, that every NFL team playing on Thanksgiving has a losing record. Obviously, we took out the Steelers-Ravens, but that's when the Packers played the Lions at Briggs Field. And yes, Evan Abrams and I combined to go back that far. So having talked to the guys at the Superbook, they say this is really going to affect the overall handle as much as 50%, not having that last game, rolling into the final game where all the parlays are, where all the money is, and because that game is so big. So that's a major, major thing. Also, he says that normally this is Eric at the Superbook. He says that normally there's a crowd that comes in towards the end of the game, and now that end of the day, and that will not happen. Talking about I was very surprised. Stuckey said that the Lions offense is not going to get anywhere. I was very surprised when I looked at the totals here, that even though obviously people skew to the over, FanDuel, 51% of bets on the over, 56% of the money. And 75% of the bets on the Texans, -3, 81% of the money on the Texans. Virtually the same thing at DraftKings, although 72% of the money is on the over at 51.5. What don't I get? I mean, that is my smash play. 51.5 for these teams. I don't understand it, but someone's got to say something on that, because I already bet it, but I might bet more.
I mean, it's still, look, the Lions still should be able to get some points. It's still a terrible Texans defense, regardless of who's out there. But
stuck.
I don't mind the under here.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Kenny Galladay's out, but so is Danny Amendola. Where if Stafford's dealing with a thumb injury, that's the guy that he'd be targeting underneath and more easier throws. So I think that hurts Stafford as well. This is a matchup where normally I would have this projector on 53, 54, but just given the injuries on the Lions offense, I think it does play towards the under here.
I love it. I'm going to do that one too, because why not? Because it's Thanksgiving. And when it's Thanksgiving, you have 2 desserts. And to me, there's nothing sweeter than betting an under on Thanksgiving. I think everybody feels that way. And what's even worse, by not having the game on Thursday night, like, think about all the drunk betting you're not going to have. Like, everybody at the end of the day, like, they've settled in, they're having their nightcap, they're totally indulging the way we are all going to be indulging. You're not going to have that game to bet on. You're going to bet on like a repeat of the dog show on NBC. All right, Katie Rich Creek, what do you got?
I have 2 more trends for you. Neither are about the under, but they are in favor of Stuck's pick on the Texans. The Lions have hosted a game on Thanksgiving virtually every season since 1934. That's a very long time, but they haven't had a stellar record of late. They're 5-20 outright over the past 25 Thanksgivings, apologies. And also working against them is their status as a home underdog. Home dogs are 2-23 on Thanksgiving Day over the past 25 years. So just giving you more reasons to lean into these picks, Chad.
I didn't need any more reasons, Katie, because I already love them. I think they're fantastic. All right, let's get up to the second round to convince me. 3 more bets that these fools are going to try to tell me to take. Let's go. Sean Corner, what do you got?
I have Michael Gallup under 39.5 receiving yards. Gallup's the Cowboys' main deep threat, so he comes with a wide range of outcomes. I won't get into the math of it, but that typically means there's more value on the under. He leads the team with 15 targets of 20 plus yards or more. And this Washington defense is actually pretty good against deep passes. They've only allowed a success rate of 36% to the deep ball, which is 10th best in the league. The Cowboys are a 3-point favorite here. So, especially this season, that means they should be able to have a more run-heavy, conservative game plan than usual. Michael Gallup really hasn't jived with Andy Dalton at all this year. In the 10 quarters, Andy Dalton has been the starting quarterback. Gallup has only caught 52 receiving yards. So all of these trends lead me to think that, this line is way, way too high. I would actually bet this down to 33, 34.5. But, a guy with like Gallup with a wide range of outcomes I already explained tends to favor the over in these kind of situations.
This is a gross bet. I don't want anything to do with it. I can already tell you. I might come back around. You might have to convince me as we get closer to the end. But so far, I freaking hate this idea. Sean Corner. Stucky. Do you have something disgusting?
I do. I did want to mention, though, that if you are looking for drunk bets at night, we have Utah 0-4 Utah State against 0-4 New Mexico. We'll have stuff up on that game on actionnetwork.com. But I'm going the only thing I really like in this game, I think it's priced about right from a spread perspective, is the under. I see a tad bit of value in the under here. The Cowboys defense was atrocious earlier in the year. They had a lot of injuries. It was a new scheme under Mike Nolan. And despite still a lot of injuries in the secondary, and it's not the most talented defense, they're playing really well of late relatively to what we saw earlier in the year. And just from what I see, it's a lot of communication, more comfortable in his system. So I have to give Nolan credit for what he's done with, the kind of a lack of talent there. On the other side of the ball, Washington's defense is excellent. And they have a great defensive line. They have 2 corners who are playing really well. I know the Cowboys' offensive line is in better shape than it was when they only scored 3 points against Washington in the first matchup. You have Zach Martin out, right tackle. You have a rookie that's not at center anymore. But I still think that with a statuesque quarterback and Andy Dalton back there, Washington's defensive line can get pressure. And I just think that this is going to be a low-scoring division game. I think that there's value anything over 45.
I give you credit for creativity in using statuesque as a pejorative because I've never heard it used that way. But other than that, this bet also makes me sick because I only have room.
Makes me sick too.
I only have room, I think, for one under during Thanksgiving. And I've already committed myself to Darren Fells under 19.5 receiving yards. I don't know if I can go. I definitely can't go Michael Gallup where he could get 40 yards in one catch. I'm not going to go under on like the second game on Thanksgiving where all I want to do is sit on the couch and be entertained. So Raybon, you have like a wide open lane here for me to choose your bet. What do you got for me?
I hate to disappoint you, Chad, but I'm going with another under, and it's another bet that's correlated with what these two guys said. Because I totally agree. I think you look at this game and you see Andy Dalton on one side of it and Alex Smith on the other. Both of these quarterbacks are among the lowest in average depth of target, and that's going to hurt Gallup. Andy Dalton is averaging just 6.1 yards on average past the line of scrimmage with his throws. That's why Gallup's not getting the ball because Andy Dalton's not throwing downfield. And this is even true last week where he got pressured 6% of the time. That's amazing. And yet he was still throwing the ball, 5-6 yards past the line of scrimmage. So under on his 252.5 passing yards, I would bet this down about a whole, to 246 because like a whole essentially extra attempt because this guy 203 yards last week in a game they score 31 points. And he had a game earlier this season. He threw the ball 54 times and he had 266 yards. I mean, this guy is just, it's not getting it done here with Andy Dalton and throwing the football for these Dallas Cowboys. And now they're in just an ugly game.
Corner, I'm going to go to you because what normally happens in this is like, I'll say someone convinced me and Raybon will go after Friedman on the Sunday show. Friedman will go after Raybon and Corner will sit there in the corner and be like, guys, why can't we all just get along? I love everybody's bets. You tell me right now, which one of these is the best bets?
Well, obviously it's the Gallup one, and I understand you hate it. And, it's going to be nerve-wracking waiting 60 minutes to see if he hauls in a deep pass. I understand that. But that's the beauty of it. Just ignore it. Just watch the game, enjoy the game. He won't do anything. I like winning money. So just, bet on the thing that's going to win money. But if you did want to parlay all of these bets, they do correlate. And then you would just, you'd root for Zeke Elliott. You get to root for Chase Young to get to Andy Dalton. Like there's things that you can root for with these unders. So I think we just need to shape your mind in that regard where you're not necessarily rooting against a bunch of stuff. You can root for other players.
These are all making me sick. I'm only going to choose one. I'm going with Michael Gallup. Corner did a great job right there. I really appreciate it. And look, if at the end of the day, like I only have to root for one thing not to happen, then I'm really excited to root for one thing not to happen. And that being Michael Gallup not getting over 33.5 receiving yards?
39.5. If
39.5.
Don't bet it.
That's impossible. He's barely going to play in this game. Under 39.5 receiving yards from Michael Gallup. Darren Ravel. Let's see. Oh, wait. We talked about the prop contest off the top. I said it was Jordan Akins replied to @Action Network HQ with the exact number of yards that Jordan Akins will have in the game, in the early game, the Texans and the Lions. I know I screwed this up for all the producers out there who are like, why are you doing this? That's the winning game. But that's okay. That's okay.
Hey, Chad, can I get breaking privileges? Because you just said Michael Gallup's barely going to play. That's not true either. Michael Gallup's going to play 98% of the snaps. He's just not. You're just not going to see him because he's going to be way further than Andy Dalton is looking.
Okay, fine, but I'm still not choosing Andy Dalton. So, like,
it's fine. I'm actually just I'm trying to just make sure the people out there know what's going on.
No, you're right.
You're educated to make this bet because you did say at the top, no hot air analysis and all that good stuff that you say. So just had to keep you honest, Millman.
That's true. No, Raybon, you totally should. Katie Rich Creek, you got anything else for me?
No. What about Darren Ravel?
Well, I was going to go to Katie next, and then I was going to let you close it out.
Okay.
We're
But we
just
can go to
giving you
Darren.
the final word, Darren.
Go,
Let's
Katie.
go to Darren.
Okay.
Mine will be really quick. Oh,
Okay, go, Katie.
okay, fine.
Katie,
oh my
you
god, this
go.
is like classic Zoom call etiquette. I have
Seriously.
another quick trend in support of, again, Stucky's pick. Later in the season, the under has hit in divisional matchups like this one at a 62% rate over the past 15 seasons, going under by almost a whole field goal per game. This is also a match for 4 other games this week, including Ravens Steelers, which we were supposed to get tomorrow night, but has been postponed until Sunday. And now the floor is all yours, Darren.
All right, here we go. So 67% of the bets, both at FanDuel and DraftKings, are on the Cowboys, and 78% of the dollars, both at FanDuel and DraftKings, 79% at DraftKings of the dollars. And then on the over, 55% of the bets on the over of 46.5, and 64% on the under of the money on the under. So that's an interesting one there. That's on FanDuel, both on the over at DraftKings. So 64% of the money on the under on 46.5. That's an interesting one for me because I'm the under king. I think there's only value in unders. So I'm wondering if I should play that one too.
You're practically a professional, Darren.
Well, I did the analysis on the Action Network, when you do your whole analysis thing, and it came out I was pretty much 50-50, which made me very upset.
Listen, everyone should download the Action Network app. It's free. Do all the analysis on all your bets. Every bet you put in, you will get to be able to figure out, like, what am I good at? What am I bad at? Before we let you go for Thanksgiving, once around the screen, bets we are thankful for so far this year. Sean Corner, you're first.
So my favorite bet this year was Justin Jefferson over 18.5 yards back in week 2. I was over 20 yards over this line. And I remember Katie and I, we kept having to check if the line was still up before we published because it was such a bad line. And now he's one of the best young receivers in the game. It's probably going to be 5 to 7 years before we see a prop under 60 yards for him. So it was fun getting it back at the time because I had noticed he was starting to break out and becoming the number 2 receiver. And one of the sites was generous enough to offer this prop.
It's very kind of them and very smart of you to be ahead of it. Chris Raybon.
I mean, I don't even remember, as far back as like a few weeks ago on my bets, but I do remember, I think it was just last week, Nick Chubb stepped out of bounds, and I thought I had lost a bet, like in the middle of him sprinting toward the end zone because I had Texans plus 3.5. They were down by 3. The clock was about to run out, but Chubb could have scored with no consequences. Instead, he hopped out of bounds at the 1, so I'm sure some of my fantasy teams were upset, but my betting bankroll was very, very thankful.
I remember you choosing that as one of your bets in the Sunday 6-pack in the very popular Action Network NFL podcast that you co-host with our friend Stucky. Stucky, you did not put any bets you're thankful for in our pregame show, pre-show rundown. I have no idea if you have a bet you're thankful for or not.
I did. I told Evan. Evan should know this.
What is it?
Well, first, I do want to get in that you choosing that Gallup prop. When this game is 13-10 in the second half and I'm just snoozing on my couch after eating, you're going to have to just be, all right, is he getting another reception? Is he getting another reception? So you regret it then. But my bet that I'm thankful for is Virginia college basketball earlier today, minus 18 against Towson. It was my first college basketball bet of the year. Meaningless, but it's just when you like take a test, you want to get the first question right. It doesn't really matter. Just one of those things that, all right, it's the first of 3,000 college basketball bets that I'm going to have. It kind of just feels like it sets the tone. You hate to lose the first one of the year, as meaningless as it is. It's just a thing that I always love to hit the first bet and hate when I don't. So I hit the first college basketball bet of the year. Hopefully it's a good sign. I'm thankful for that. Thanks, Who's.
I am glad for you. I am thankful for the Bears. 3.5-point dogs against the Atlanta Falcons on September 27th. Mitch Trubisky gets benched. Nick Foles comes in. Miracle comeback. It's one more nail in the coffin for Dan Quinn, which I know Chris Raybon loved. And it showed how bad the Falcons were and how you can lose in the most epic ways. It was also a great win for the Bears, which was super exciting. I was on the Bears at +3.5. Those are the bets we're thankful for. Tomorrow, I'm going to be thankful for Jordan Akins over 30.5 receiving yards, the Texans -3, Darren Fells under 19.5 receiving yards, the Texans Lions under 51.5. And I will be thankful for Michael Gallup under 39.5 receiving yards. I may or may not end up being thankful for Andy Dalton under 252.5 passing yards and the under in the Washington Cowboys game as well. This has been Convince Me from the Action Network. Join us again Sunday for all the news you need to make all the smartest bets. Happy Thanksgiving, folks.